Overture, curtain lights. This is it, the night of nights. No more rehearsing and nursing a part. We know every card by heart. Overture, curtain lights. This is it, we'll hit the heights. And oh, what heights we'll hit. On with the show, this is it.
Hey, I'm back. This is Goose Scott with the show, here to bring you some movie reviews, some stuff I've seen, and a little bit of entertainment news, and hopefully I'll talk a little bit about some local community theater. But before we, I want to thank the beautiful Bakersfield Music Hall of Fame and KernCast.com and my sponsors right now, Patriot Bail Bonds. And so we are, let's get on with the show, as they like to say. Now, I'm going to talk about something that doesn't seem, a news story that doesn't seem to want to go away. It's kind of like a rash. It just doesn't want to go away. And that is more news on Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now, of course, we all know that because of some bad tweets that Director James Gunn had sent out 7 years ago, and let me repeat that, 7 years ago. All right, I just want to make sure everybody knew that. 7 years ago, Disney let him go. They said that you will not direct Guardians 3, and rather than and since then, his cast and everybody has come out to defend him. They've come out to try to they've got his back, and they've decided we want to keep James Gunn's vision. Well, let me repeat that. Let me rephrase that. Wrestler turned actor Dave Bautista, who plays Drax the Destroyer, has said that if they don't bring Gunn back, or even furthermore, if they don't even use his script and keep his vision, he wants his release. Now, this is a big deal. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, some may even argue that, Drax, he's kind of a secondary character, and, he's not like a Star-Lord or Gamora or someone. He's, let me just let you know one thing. Drax, the way Dave Bautista portrays him, he's like the comedy relief that really works alongside Chris Pratt's Star-Lord's comedy. So, this has got to be, so this might be a big deal. Because I don't think they can find, I really don't think they can find him or replace him with just anybody, because the way that Bautista portrays Drax, this is kind of a big deal. At least in my book, it's a big deal. I wouldn't, and of course, I know most companies, we'll just replace him with somebody else. You kind of run the risk that you're not going to get a guy that's going to have the same kind of feel or timing for the character. He may not gel well with the rest of the cast, and it's just going to come out kind of flat.
And it won't be the same.
It won't be the same. And so this puts Disney in a bind. This puts Disney in a real bind because they don't want to lose this franchise. This franchise in Guardians 3, this has made them a lot of money. And so there's only one way that everybody can be happy to fix this whole situation. And I would, the only way I could see it really, really kind of coming together, it would have to be that James Gunn has to get out. He has to come in front of cameras. He has to give a public apology, and he has to do it in front of everybody. And he has to do it not just explain himself, but really, really show remorse for what he did, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to get back. It used to be where if you did something wrong, you came out, you came to the podium, you had a prepared speech, you shed a few tears, you said you were sorry, you felt remorseful, and we all brought you back into the fold. Now we have people who like what James Gunn did. James Gunn didn't come out and really apologize in front of the world. He sent a tweet out saying how bad he felt. That doesn't cut it. It really does not cut it. You're going to have to get out. I mean, you're going to have to call a press conference. I would even get, to Bob Iger and the people at Disney and say, hey, let's fix this. I'm really sorry. Let me put out a public apology. You can bring me back. You can say that I'm, or whatever. And because I think this would help both parties. This would help Disney. This would help Gunn. And I think that we could basically find a resolution to this. Now, here's Disney's problem and especially not just Disney but ABC, because we all know that if Gunn comes out and does this and he's brought back, there's going to be a lot of people demanding that Disney and ABC do the same for Roseanne Barr. And you know what? You guys may have to suck it up and do it. You're just going to have to suck it up and do it. Roseanne Barr has been out in front. She's done interviews. People have talked to her. Reporters have talked to her. She's been remorseful. She has apologized 7 ways till Sunday. And I don't know what else more you want. Okay? Other comedians have done things far worse than what she's done. And people have just kind of... the people have just kind of they've shoved it under the rug. Oh, that was just a joke. Well, you know what? You're going to have to decide, Disney, ABC, you're going to have to decide what part of this fight you want. Because if you don't want Roseanne back, then you can't have Gunn back. But it seems like your hand's being forced because the cast of Guardians wants Gunn back. And so you're going to have to suck it up and do what you need to do the press conference, shed a few tears, hug it out, and then just move on. And then you're going to have to give Roseanne a call and say, we would like to have you back. We'd like to bring the show back. And and that's how you could resolve everything. Everybody's happy. Okay? Enough with that. I'm hoping next week I don't have another Guardians, because this has gone on for 3-4 weeks, and it seems like something new happens every week with this whole Guardians 3 thing. I understand Dave Bautista's position. I understand what he wants to do. I don't know if he's in a position to really demand that, but it might be something that will spark the rest of the cast and the crew to bring James Gunn back. We'll see. All right, before I go to break, I want to talk about one movie that I went, and I want to say this. A funny thing happened to me on the way to the theater. You've ever heard that line before? What happened was I was going to go see, I had fully intended to watch and review Black Klansman. Now, I do fully intend to watch the movie and review it. I was hoping to do it today, but the problem was last night I had a family thing I had to take care of, so I wasn't able to go out last night to see the movie, and I saw a chance to see it this morning. And then, of course, I took care of something really quick, and I went to the movie theater, and I was fully intended to go see the movie, only I went to the wrong theater. And I had to make a decision. Do I watch the movie? Because if I had watched the movie, I would have been late getting here. And I wouldn't be doing a show. I wouldn't be doing other people's shows. I had 2 other shows in front of me. So I thought, well, I'll review The Meg. Well, that was the same problem because the timing of everything was not going to work. So there was one movie I really wanted to see that I did have on my list. And I was a little surprised because I wasn't sure how anybody would react to it. But the movie I went and saw this morning to review for you all is Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Now, let me ask my producer, because he watched it with me this morning. What did you think of the movie?
It was silly, and it showed the importance of friendship.
Now those are the 2 main things that the movie was about. This was a spoof movie. of anything, this movie was a spoof movie about superhero films. Because guess what? In the last 10 years, we have been inundated with superhero films from both DC and Marvel. And matter of fact, I don't think you can go a month or a couple months without another superhero film coming out. And this really, really played on that silliness of fact that how of how superhero films have just become their own enigma. They've just gone absolutely crazy. So that's one of the things I want to say, because you're going to go into this film, and let me tell you, it's not a bad film. It's really silly. Your kids will love it. If they are a huge fan of Cartoon Network, they're going to like the film, because I know my kids watch Cartoon Network, and I've watched some of the show. I find it so I can't watch it because it's just too silly for me to get into. But that's what the movie was about. It was being so ridiculously silly. And there were actually a lot of parts that were hysterical. Let me go over some of the things that go on with this film. One, what do you normally get in an MCU film? You get a cameo by Stan Lee. Had that. It made mention of other Warner Brothers properties, like the Animaniacs. I really love that, because I had become a fan of the Animaniacs just recently, and it's just, it brings certain joy. Now here's one of the things I can tell you, because one of the things that DC has kind of really done well with is the fact that they've done well when it comes to their animation and their television shows. They seem to really hit the mark, especially with the animation part, because their animation movies are by far some of the best superhero films I have ever seen. In their cartoons. Now, the MCU, Marvel, they've got their movies. They've got their franchise movies that we go to the theaters and we watch and we love them. But DC's really found a niche here with their animated shows and their animated films. This movie surprised me, because when I initially heard that they were doing a Teen Titans Go movie, I rolled my eyes and I went, oh my God. And yet when I saw the trailers, I'm like, this looks like it might be interesting. It might be fun. They even bring up Deadpool and make fun of, because the villain in Teen Titans Go, the movie, is Slade. The funny thing is, Slade looks an awful lot like Deadpool. And they just absolutely rip on this guy about it. Is so funny. It is. Now, the other good part about it is that the movie's only an hour and a half, so you can get your kids out of the house. You can stay out of the heat and the smoke. You can go see a film with your kids, and this might be the one that'll do it. Again, it's very silly, but it also has a great message, because one of the things that this movie tells you about is that you've got, when you've got friends, you've got a family. They weren't just a team; they were a family. They were that close. And even when you think that you've betrayed them, they are able to forgive you and bring you back. So. It's not the best film in the world. I mean, there are other films out there you can probably pluck your... if you're looking for a really good film, there are other films that you can go out and see. But for just a real silly film to take your kids to, I would recommend this. Probably want to go early in the day to watch it, so you can save some money on those ticket prices on the matinee, which is the best thing for a movie like this. Save a little money. Save money on tickets to get your popcorn and your sodas like we did. And go have a good time with your kids and see Teen Titans Go. All right, I'm gonna go to my break. When I come back, I'm gonna talk about three older films that I got a chance to watch this week. Some of the best films I've ever seen. Again, my name is Goose Scott. This is On With The Show, coming to you from the Bakersfield Music Hall of Fame and KernCast.com. We'll be right back after this.
At the time you were arrested, you were served with a DS-367 temporary driver's license. It's good for 30 days, but if you don't act within 10 days, at the end of those 30 days, your license will be suspended. It's important for your lawyer to contact the DMV for you. Set up a driver's license administrative hearing so that your license does not go into suspension. That's something here at Braemar Law we do for you.
I choose Patriot Bail Bonds.
We choose Patriot Bail Bonds.
We choose Patriot Bail Bonds.
If the best criminal attorneys choose Patriot Bail Bonds, who would you choose?
Patriot Bail Bonds. We fight for your freedom.
And we're back. This is Goose Scott with On With The Show. I wanted to bring up something really quick because a lot of people have been talking to me about Movie Pass and the big change that they made with their service, because you were able to go to, you pay a fee, pay like $10, you go to a whole bunch of movies, during the week, and oh my gosh, isn't this great? I think it was like a movie a day at one point, and I was like, there's no way they could sustain this. There really isn't. There's no way that they're going to be able to sustain this kind of level. And of course, we just found out this week, and I think part of last week, that they were going to have to change their policies. You were going to get a chance to see 3 movies a month. Okay, that may sound better. It might be. I know in some areas, movie tickets are expensive. I know that and I know that if you're like a family, you taking your kids out to go see a movie can be really expensive, especially when you add in that popcorn and that soda and all that other stuff. But I don't know. I don't know if this will save Movie Pass. I know they were having huge issues, especially last week when people wanted to go see Mission Impossible Fallout. You couldn't even get tickets for it. Obviously, they're going to have to change some things. They're going to have to continue to change some things, because we don't just want to go see a movie. We want to go see the movie. We want to go see the movie that is out and everybody else is watching. I think this might sustain them, but I don't know. I mean, if you watch their stock, it is like falling like a rock. I mean, last I heard it was at like 7 cents a share. I mean,
that's not good.
That's not good, But of course, the CEO's response is, "Well, we now have the model that will work." I sure hope so. But I will tell you this, especially here in a place like Bakersfield, California, where the heat gets up to over 100 degrees in a day, a lot of us don't want to go outside. A lot of us like to stay in, and that's where we stream our movies, watch our DVDs, watch our cable. You're going to have to kind of entice us a little better if you're going to want us to really make a night of it. All right, now I'm done with that. Let's go on. My favorite film happened to be, my wife happened to come home and find a copy of one of my favorite films of all time. And the film is called Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It stars Steve Martin and the late John Candy, written, directed, and produced by the late John Hughes. And let me tell you something. This was one of John Hughes's later films, because at that point he'd been popular for stuff like Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, and so this is his venture out to more of an adult situation for a movie like this. And this is a pure buddy comedy, a road comedy about 2 guys who are totally different, end up together, and Steve Martin's character, Neil Page, has to get home in time for a Thanksgiving dinner, and he has to go from New York to Chicago. And all I gotta say is, and then mayhem ensues. He gets teamed up with John Candy's character, Del Griffith, who has one of the stupidest jobs I've ever heard of, which is selling shower curtain rings. And in the process of trying to fly back from New York to Chicago, they have the worst snowstorm in history, and it basically grounds their plane. And hence, again, the mayhem ensues because now they got to try to figure out how to get from wherever they're at to Chicago. It is one of the funniest films I've ever watched. It is one of those holiday films that doesn't get a lot of play, mostly because it's about someone trying to get home for Thanksgiving. And now let's be honest, there aren't a whole lot of films out there that are about Thanksgiving. This is one of them. I do recommend, though, that because it's got a lot of foul language in it, so it's not going to be one of these films that you could sit there and watch with children under 12. But it is hysterically funny. It is hysterical, and it's very, very touching because, again, you have two guys who just end up together. They're on opposite ends of the social spectrum. And you get a chance to see how they kind of bond through this whole experience. The film was done in 1987, which will give you a clue, because there are some scenes in there, again, that have, payphones, and a vibrating bed, and and you're able to get through airport security without being, strip searched. So there's some things in that movie that will kind of seem foreign to us now, but it's very, very funny. It's a very, very touching film. If you have a chance to see it, my wife actually got this at the library. She found a copy of it at the library, which is one thing I don't tell people enough of. If you ever had a chance to go rent movies from the library, or they have movies, TV shows, you're able to go there. Just make sure that your library card's up to date. But you're able to rent films at a very, very inexpensive rate, and you're able to hold on to it until you have to bring it back at the end of this. But great film, and my favorite John Hughes film of all time. And if you get a chance to find it, watch it. You will, in my opinion, you'll die laughing. All right. But let's go on to a movie on the other end of the spectrum. And this was a movie that came out just a year earlier than Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in 1986 called Blue Velvet. Now, Blue Velvet is directed by David Lynch. And if anybody's ever watched David Lynch's films, they can get kind of, weird. I guess that's the best way to say it. And Blue Velvet is a film noir film, and it's a great, great, great film. Stars Kyle MacLachlan, Isabella Rossellini, the late Dennis Hopper, and Laura Dern. And what I love about this film is that Lynch kind of mixes in Americana with kind of the seedier, darker tones of what happens in a film noir film. And you find this guy who, of all things, he's walking through a, I don't even want a field, and he finds a severed ear, and he turns it in, and from there he ends up getting mixed up with a blues singer and her crazy boyfriend, and this guy who's like high on laughing gas, and is just one of the just incredibly, incredibly intense films. And but Lynch does a great job of using, of all things, one of the things I noticed is that he does a great job of using color in this film. We saw a detective that's basically he's a corrupt police officer that wears a yellow suit, meaning he's a coward. Laura Dern's character is like the pure girlfriend of Kyle MacLachlan, who is always wearing white meaning purity. Isabella Rossellini, she bounces back and forth from blue to red, from fire to ice. Kyle MacLachlan begins to start wearing black and more dark colors, meaning he's starting to go further and further into the underbelly of whatever it is he's got himself mixed up in. And it's just one of those great films that when you watch, you definitely get the sense of tension and danger. It's a classic David Lynch film. If you have a chance to watch it, I had a chance to watch it while I was streaming. Unfortunately, now it's not on the streaming channels anymore. But if you have a chance to watch it, if you can find it, go check it out. Blue Velvet is really a classic film that you should get off your bucket list. Lastly, not leastly, I have had a chance again. A lot of times I'll watch these premium channels, and I'll end up catching an old Western. Now, again, I've been watching a lot of Westerns lately. I reported on just a couple weeks ago, I did the Outlaw Josie Wales. Last week I did Once Upon a Time in the West. This time I did the 1951 film Rawhide that stars Tyrone Power and Susan Hayward. This is an interesting film. And again, it's dated because one of the very first thing that they talk about is how this new fast mail system that goes from San Francisco to St. Louis in 25 days on a stagecoach. Yes, 25 days for you to... let me ask you this. If you went to order something from Amazon and they said it will be there in 25 days via stagecoach, what would you do? But yet, in the 1800s, that's what the latest way that they were able to do. It's like the Pony Express with a Wells Fargo wagon. And what happens is Tyrone Power, he's a guy who works at one of these places that's kind of like I want to say like an inn or something where they pick up and drop off passengers, they pick up and drop off mail, and they exchange horses because obviously these horses have been running for miles and miles and miles, so they exchange horses. And Tyrone Power, he ends up having to take care of Susan Hayward and a baby who were on their way to St. Louis, and in the process they find out that this outlaw has escaped, and he's looking, to steal this gold that's trying to get, this on one of the stagecoaches. And of course, what happens? The guy, shows up with a sheriff's badge, fools Power's character. Him and his gang start taking control of the little post station, and again, all kinds of craziness ensues. They have to be able to keep everything together without having everything kind of fall apart. Now, again, this isn't your regular shoot 'em up kind of film. Tyrone Power he's not this guy that he's going to pull out he's not like Clint Eastwood that just pulls out his gun, blows everybody away, and then walks away. I mean, Tyrone Power basically tries to use his brain to get out of the situation, and eventually Susan Hayward, who at first did not want to be there, her character finally realizes that the only way they're going to survive is to play along. It's a great film, again, and it's a very classic Western that's done in one location. It's done in one location. Now, it's got several rooms, but it's done in one location, and it's not boring in the least. Again, this movie was only about an hour and a half. So you're able to watch it, in one afternoon. You can be able to get up and do whatever it is you need to do. And so, if you have a chance, and then I got to see this. It was on Stars Encore. They were showing a weekend of westerns, and so if you have a chance to get to see Rawhide, I would recommend that you do it. If anything, just to see, just to see a classic Western, and just to see how, if any filmmaker to see, shot in black and white, is shot in one location. And it uses a lot of the same type of Western tropes without getting too exaggerated. That's it for me this week. I've gone through all the films that I have watched this week, and I have reviewed. The only thing I was able to find this week, as far as theater is concerned in the Bakersfield area, is that the Bakersfield Community Theater is holding auditions this weekend for the Laramie Project. Give them a call or check out their website. I wasn't able to find anything else on Bakersfield Talent as far as any other shows this weekend. I would recommend that if you you check your local paper, or check. We only have one local paper, so check the check the newspaper, see what's showing this weekend as far as theater is concerned, and hopefully. I'll be able to report on some more stuff next week. Again, I do plan on seeing. I do plan on seeing Black Klansman. I'll have a chance to report on it next week, and let's hopefully I won't have a lot of craziness going on this next week. And I'll be able to have a lot more movies to talk to you about this time next week. Again, my name is Goose Scott. This is On With The Show, coming to you from the beautiful Bakersfield Music Hall of Fame and Currentcast.com. Thank you for watching, and go catch a show.
Overture, curtain lights, this is it, the night of nights. No more rehearsing and nursing a part. We know every card by heart.